What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are back from Ford Takeover. So glad to be able to meet all of you guys. So thankful for all the kids that showed up. I just want to say this: thank you all for bringing your kids out, right? That's a pretty important thing. These are memories that no one will ever be able to take away from you. Spend time with your kids, bring them out if you can. It was so awesome to be able to take pictures and all that stuff and meet all of you guys. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out. But today we got to get back on the grind. I've been lazy for about 4 days now. I've not turned a wrench or anything. As you can see though, we got a different setup in the shop. So the Retro Fox was running great, but I had to rob some parts off of it to get this car ready and tuned. Since we put the new Anderson cam in it, the car really didn't want to act right at idle. So I went ahead, robbed the Moch quarter horse out of this car and the throttle body, put it in here, and this car is now tuned by Leach Motorsports, and it's running really good. We still got a few little things that I want to touch on and tweak on, but that's how they always go. This car is running really good, and a lot of you guys got to see it at the event, and she even did a pretty good burnout, which surprised me because I didn't know if we were going to be able to do it or not. But anyway, I've got to order a new quarter horse. We got our throttle body on the way. We actually went with the 75mm throttle body. For any of you that have been following along, you know I was going to get the 75mm race throttle body, which is 75mm at the inlet right here, or outlet, and then 90mm at the inlet. I decided not to go that route just due to supply and demand. You can't get them right now, so we're just going to go with the 75mm AccuFab. All right, up here we have the Gray Ghost. And why do I have this thing up here right now? Well, I'm going to force myself to do something with this car. It does not need to sit. As a matter of fact, it was out of gas whenever I went up there to go get it out of the garage. So there's a few things that we need to do. All of our bracing and everything for our fenders, like none of this is bolted up. All of our bracing we have back here, so we're going to put all that stuff in, get everything lined up, and we're going to start on body work here pretty soon. So it's not going to be long before we're diving pretty deep into this. But for right now, we're not doing anything major. Still got to put our doors together. So that's that. All right, and the Calypso, it's up there. I'm not going to take you guys up to the garage, but the Calypso, so here's a funny thing. I made a comment that my Terminator X was dead. It wasn't. It was a bad ground. That's all it was. One bad ground up on the battery terminal was all it was, and I couldn't see it. Like, it was still like it was connected. Got it put back on, the car busted right off, ran great. But in this video, I want to talk to you about the Carbon Fox and let you know how this thing did on the trip. So we hauled it 7 hours to Tennessee. So obviously we didn't drive the car for 7 hours. Hauled it up there, unloaded it, and immediately started driving this thing like there was no tomorrow. Here's the question that most everybody has. How is the AOD? Because this is a stock AOD currently in the car. All it has is a hardened input shaft and a torque converter. That's it. I mean, it's this thing, there's no telling how many miles this transmission has on it. So how did it do with 14 gears and a built 306? Honestly, it did really good. It surprised me. I really thought we were going to toast this transmission because it has no aftermarket cooler or anything. It's just cooled through the radiator like stock. I really thought we were going to toast this thing with the burnouts, so like a 40-mile cruise round trip. I mean, running this thing hard, right? Letting it sit in idle while, you know, Leach Motorsports tuned on it. I'm just like, oh my God, I hope this thing, you know, doesn't overheat, doesn't mess the transmission up from just sitting here just idling and running it around. It did great. It did great. So there's a lot of people out there that hate automatics, and especially hate AODs. Whatever your reason is, I'm sure you've got one. For me though, I own everything else that I own in this yard as far as Mustang wise is all a manual, a 5-speed manual. We have a TKX in the Calypso. This car has a T5 in it. Papa T's car over here has a Z-Spec T5. The 65 has an old T5 in it, and it shifts great. So this car having an AOD was a nice touch, right? It's something a little different, and I feel like I can get in this car and go to the grocery store, go pick the kids up from school, whatever the case may be, and sip on my coffee and listen to a podcast while I'm doing it. For me, that means a lot, right? That's something that I enjoy doing. I don't always want to have to get in a car and bang gears, right? I think the issue that most people tend to have with an AOD is that they're not tough. Well, I'm not going to argue with you there. They're not the toughest thing out there. But me and my transmission builder, Stephen Grant, were talking today, and I'd love to get him on the phone so, you know, he can tell you guys like some of his experiences with these AODs and C4s and older transmissions and things like that that have gotten a bad rap. One of the main reasons why these transmissions get a bad rap is because you don't adjust the TV cable right, or the kickdown cable. It's not adjusted right. So right over here on a Fox body, you have a cable. This cable right here, I know you can't see it. There's no way to get down there. If this cable's not adjusted properly, then you will burn your transmission up pretty quickly. So what I'll do is just give you like a brief overview or mindset, if you will, on how to start your initial adjustment on this. Now this information comes from my transmission guy. He's been doing this forever. I trust anything that he says, and I'm gonna be honest with you, so far it's not failed me. So here's what he says. As you can see right here, I just actually have a rubber bushing in here. That's what I chose to use. They make metal bushings and everything else for these cables right here. But here's the deal. This thing is adjustable. See this block, this black plastic block right here? This thing, you can pull a pin up in it and it can move back and forth. Okay, so this is the underside of your throttle body, and this is gonna be your TV cable adjustment hole. So it's gonna sit like this. All right, very simply, when you adjust this block, it has a stud in that block. So you can pull a little tab up on that block and slide this thing back and then lock it back down into place. So you can essentially move it wherever you want to, right? So let's say that this is your idle range. This is how the car sits whenever it's just idling. No throttle input at all. The car is running good. This is where you like your idle. So this is where this is gonna sit. What you wanna do, instead of centering the hole immediately, like right in the center, try doing this on your first adjustment. Try adjusting it just to the back side here, or front side if you will, and lock it into place so that you kind of have to pull this thing up and then drop it in the hole. But see that stud right there in the center with the cotter pin through it? That's what I'm talking about. You want to adjust this block right here back ever so slightly and then pull it forward after you lock it in and push it up. The worst thing that you can do for one of these cars is actually have it too loose. So that's why, you know, Steven told me, he was like, man, just go a little higher on it and then start easing it back. If it's shifting too late, go ahead and, you know, move it back a couple notches towards the hole, right? So that it's more loose and you don't have to pull this thing and pop it up in the hole as tight. There are things that you can do to your stock AOD for not a lot of money to make you really, really happy with it. So I just want to let everybody know I'm loving the AOD in this car. I love it. So, you know, stop with all the hate. I see it so often, you know, guys that are diehard, you know, 5-speed manual guys. I get it. You think AODs and automatics suck and they're cheating or they're slow or they're this or they're that. Don't be that way. Never be that guy, because you can get skin up by an AOD a lot quicker than you can by that 5-speed guy, okay? Most of the time, stock for stock in these cars, your 5-speed car is going to be quicker than your AOD, but that's in a stock world, right? Once you get these things built and do some work to them, they're kind of hard to deal with. I still personally prefer a manual car, but I do love having a nice auto in the fleet. So let me cover real quick the RPM range with this car while I'm driving it. But between 70-75 mile an hour, you're going to be between 2200 RPM. Car runs great. No issues there. The engine still runs cool. It seems to be doing its job. No issues. And this car still does have a condenser on it, and the condenser is actually kind of messed up the fins on it. So that means that the fan is not sucking or pulling through as much air as it needs to. So it runs a little warmer than normal, but not a problem. We're going to get a new condenser for it, and she should be good to go. But normal driving and things like that, like the 410s, work out perfect with an AOD. I recommend it. Me personally, I wouldn't go any more than a 410 gear though on a true street car. 373 is always a good option. I typically wouldn't go any less than a 355 though with an AOD if you're trying to make any power, unless you have like a turbo car or something. My car will be supercharged, and I think it'll work out pretty good, but we may have to drop down in gear on it as well, but we'll just see. Love it though, guys. Your cam still does hit with an AOD. I know a lot of people say that the cam goes away. It does cushion the cam a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you, from what I've noticed, I don't know why that is, but they typically don't hit quite as hard. Cam for cam, 5-speed to AOD side by side. Yeah, typically I do seem to hear a little bit of a difference. Maybe it's just because of the converter. I don't know what the deal is, but an AOD car still can hit even when it's in drive. So like, I know a lot of you guys want to drive around the neighborhood or pull into the gas station and you still want this thing to sound good, right? I mean, hell, we paid a lot of money for these cams, and that's part of the appeal, is the way they sound. If these cars are tuned correctly, especially with a small stall, you can pull into like a gas station creeping in, and this thing will just sit there and just count them off. So I think that's pretty cool. So before the tune, it didn't do too good of a job of that, but now after Leach has tuned it, he's worked out all the little issues and bugs with it there. It's just Chop City coming into a gas station. So I think that's pretty cool. Works well. We have the Anderson N412 cam in this car, and I absolutely love it. Plenty of low end power, no bucking and jerking, which it is an automatic car, so it's not going to do that as bad as a 5-speed. That's something else that you guys need to remember now. For all the guys that are hating on AODs, they're not going around the neighborhood bucking and jerking and snatching and stuff like that like these cars like to do, right, with a big cam. I didn't really do all that. The converter just soaks it all up, guys. I've had a lot of people ask about these, so I want to go ahead and cover it real quick. For those of you who hadn't seen the video before, these are the Anderson wires, and they are freaking massive. They look like a garden hose. I mean, they truly are. Look at that up next to my finger. I mean, they're massive. But they are freaking sweet. They're thick wires. They have Kevlar in them. They're not going to just burn up on you. Very nice wires. They're not cheap. We'll just say that, guys, not cheap, and we understand that they're not for everybody, but I really, really like these. If you like the way they look and you want a wire that's going to hold up next to heat, here you go. Check out these wires from Anderson Motorsport. Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Next video you see, we're probably going to put turn downs on this thing today and finish lowering the front. I'll take you guys along for a little bit of that ride, do some time lapse and stuff like that. We'll get the car out, we'll drive it, we'll look at it, all of that. I'll catch you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.